Welcome to AP CSP Unit 5, Lesson 1, Buttons and Events. This unit is all about building apps. And in this lesson, we are going to basically get familiar with the design mode and code mode in App Lab. So it's going to look like this. You'll see there's design mode where you have a toolbox where you can drag elements into your app. And then you have properties where you will basically give your app names and different basically features or the way it's going to look, what it's going to do, and so on. And so we'll learn all about this in this lesson. Let's start with adding a large red button to our app using design mode. This is going to be in bubble number 4. So, bubble number 1, of course, has the vocabulary and the overview. And then bubble 2, there is a video. Actually, it even says you don't need to watch it. But if you want to watch it, 6 minutes, and it kind of introduces you to the design mode in App Lab. And then bubble number 3 is what I just showed you, just kind of an overview of design mode. And we're going to get started, though. We're going to actually start using it. So in bubble number 4, all you got to do is first we're going to switch to design mode. So you click right here on the word design, and that's going to switch to design mode. Drag a button. You're just going to click, you're going to drag, and you're going to drop. That's how easy it is to do. To change the text, you're going to come down here where it says the word text. Right now it says button. We're going to change it to click me. To change the color, we're going to scroll down and we have the background color here. So they want us to make it red. So if we click on that, we can see, I'm going to have to scroll down a little bit more to see all the options. We can see there's a red over here, and just pick a red that I like, maybe something a little brighter. And that's all we got to do. So that's how easy it is to put an element onto your app, onto your screen using design mode. So we'll click run and finish. And you'll notice in Unit 5 that it's going to do this. It's going to be like, are you sure you're done? Don't stress. That doesn't mean didn't do it correctly, but it's not like Unit 3 where it would be like, congratulations. So if you know you've done what you need to do and you feel good about it, then you just hit click continue and you just keep going. Okay. App Lab, what we're going to be doing is basically what's called event programming, and they have a block that is pre-designed and it's called on event, and we're going to use that throughout the lessons in order to give our items on the screen functionality. Okay, so we'll learn how to do that over the course of the next few bubbles. So we're going to keep moving on to bubble number 6. In bubble 6, we're going to make the turtle move forward when the button is clicked. So we're going to head over to bubble number 6. And you'll see on the screen that we already have our button and we have our little turtle. I'm going to go ahead and move the button. So if I want to move the button, I can go to design mode and I can click and I can drag that out of the way because that's kind of weird. Let's go back to code. I'm going to work in blocks because that's going to be a whole lot easier because it has these little drop down arrows for when we work. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the ID of our buttons. So if we click here, then you'll see we have a button called button 3. And the other ID would be screen 1. Now, if you're like, well, how do I know it's button 3? Well, if I go to design mode, then and I click on my button, then it will tell me my ID. And I can name it whatever, I can change the name if I just want to call it button since there's only one. I could leave it the same as button 3, but the important thing is in your code, it needs to be the right ID. Okay, so now if I click the down arrow, I've got button and screen 1. So we want to make sure it's button that's selected. We're going to have it, when we click the button, it's going to move forward. Okay, so we're going to add a move forward inside here. So we're going to go to turtle and we're going to grab a move forward. And the default is 25. You can leave it as 25. You can change it if you want. So when we run the program, if we click on the button, then it's going to move forward like we programmed it to do. Okay, now it says to try changing the event type to something like mouse over so you can see the difference. So instead of click, we'll try mouse over. and then we're going to reset it and run it. And you'll see in this case, you don't have to click. Well, I guess you can't see it, but trust me, I'm just scrolling over it, and that's why it's working. And so there are different options in terms of the type of action. But basically, I'm going to leave it as click to end. And that is bubble number 6. That's all you had to do is get it to move forward. Okay, so let's finish that one. Let's hit continue. On the next bubble, what we're going to be doing is we're going to add a second button to the screen that turns the turtle to the left when clicked. Okay, so we're going to basically kind of combine the two things we've learned so far. So we already have our button on click is moving forward. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to design mode and we're going to add a second button. And for the ID, I'm going to call this button 2. For the text, I'm going to say turn left. And I'm actually going to change the color on this one too. And I'm just going to change it to like a green color. Let me zoom out. Maybe yeah, there we go. You can see these colors a little better. So I'm going to pick a green. And then I actually want to change the first button we created. You don't have to, but I'm going to change that one. I'm going to call that one button 1. And then the text, I'm going to say move forward. So that way we know what those buttons do. Okay, so once we've added the new buttons, then we can go back to code. And then I'm going to add another on event. And then on this one, well, I need to modify the first one because I changed it to button 1. So make sure I fix that or it wouldn't work. So on button 1, when we click, it'll move forward. And then on button 2, when we click, I'm going to have it turn left. So we'll grab a turn left block. And that should work properly now. That's all you got to do on 7. So let's run it. And then we'll click, should move forward, click, left. And if I click left 3 times, we'll move right. I don't know why I did that. That was lame. Okay, left, move forward. So yes, our buttons are working beautifully. Awesome. So that's how you can add button elements to your screen and how you can add the on event, the event handler. Okay, so let's hit finish and continue. On bubble number 8, it just kind of gives you a little review and it tells you like the steps. So step 1, you go to design mode and you add the element. Step 2, you add the on event code. And in step 3, you write the code in the event handler. And then of course you always run, test, and debug. And you guys should know from before, debugging means we're like fixing mistakes we have. And this process, it'll become really simple because the more you do it, the more familiar you're going to be with it. So in bubble 9, they actually talk to you about IDs. Having good IDs is really important to the app development process because we're going to end up, if you have a really elaborate app, you're going to have a lot of different IDs. And if they're not meaningful or descriptive, it's going to be hard to figure out which one's which. So it is important that you name them well. Okay, so an ID should describe the purpose of the element. So button 1 and button 2, I mean, that's not very helpful because I don't know what it's doing. If I had called it like move forward button or turn left button, then it definitely would have been helpful. So you'll see here, these are some elements. We could say a welcome screen, that's an element, or start again button. So those are like more descriptive. You'll notice they did shorten things, use little like BTN for button, and that's okay as long as you know what that means. Also note the way that those words look. The rules for IDs is that they are case sensitive. So you'll notice on the ones that I just showed you, they were written in camel case. The second, any word after the first word was capitalized. That makes it easier to read. And that is like the norm when we're coding. And they cannot contain spaces. So again, that's why we use camel case, because you can't have a space between the two words, so you capitalize it. They must begin with a letter. So you can't start with like numbers. You can't have like one button instead, it has to be button 1 or something. They can contain hyphens, underscores, colons, or periods. Normally I don't use that. I do use underscores sometimes to separate stuff. Typically, I prefer camel case over that though, because sometimes underscores get lost in the code. So anyways, those are rules that we're going to need to follow when it comes to IDs. So we're going to go on to bubble 10, and what we're going to do is we're going to give our buttons descriptive and meaningful IDs rather than the default button 1 and button 2. And then we'll change the event handler code so that it correctly references the new IDs of the buttons. Okay, so, and button, excuse me, I keep saying button, I got confused. So in bubble number 10, let's do that. So let's go to design mode and let's click on one of our buttons, and I called it button 1, but again, not very descriptive. So I'm going to call it move forward button. And that's not like, you could type out the word forward if you want. You could type out the word button. It's up to you. I shortened it just to keep my code shorter. It's really up to you. But there is a little bit of more of a meaningful ID. Okay, on the other one, I'm going to call it turn left button. Again, using that camel case to make it easier to read. And then the thing is, I do have to go to code mode now because obviously these aren't going to work now because it has an on event for button 1 and button 2. So all you got to do is you got to change that. I'm going to change that to the move forward button, and I'll change that one to the turn left button. Again, much more meaningful, much more descriptive, and my code should still work. Move forward, turn left, and we're all set. So let's hit finish and move on to bubble number 11. In bubble 11, they want us to experiment with different event types on our on-event blocks. So we're going to do just that. I already showed you the mouse over, but let's try some of these other ones that we haven't tried. Let's try mouse move for the move forward, and let's try mouse up for the turn left button. Let's see what happens. So if I click run, if I move my mouse over the move forward, that does move it. Let's see what mouse up does. So nothing happened there. Mouse up is actually, when I click, nothing happens, but when I let go of the mouse, so it goes up, it finally works. So mouse up. And I know you can't see this, but that's what's happening. So you're gonna have to try that for yourself. And let's try mouse down, and I'm assuming that will be the opposite. So when I click down, it moves. Interesting. Those seem kind of similar to me. Not sure when I would use that. So anyways, these are some different options you have with your mouse in terms of how to make your buttons work. So let's move on to number 12. So in the next few lessons, we're going to be debugging our programs. And of course, debugging is a part of the problem solving process. It's necessary. We all make mistakes. As we move forward, there's gonna be two types of errors we're gonna see. We're gonna see syntax errors, which are like misspellings or just different mistakes in our actual code, and then logic errors because basically it's not gonna do what you expect it to do. So the logic behind it isn't working. So let's go ahead and see if we can debug the next few bubbles. So in lesson 13, your first debugging task will be to verify that the button IDs match the event handlers. So let's go over to design view and let's click on our button, and it's called forward button. And if we go to code view, it's called button 1. So if we were to run this right now, it's going to give us a warning that it's not working. And then of course to fix it, we would need to change that to forward button. And then if we were to run that again, no error message, and of course it should move properly. So that's kind of how it works. The debug console at the bottom is there to help you with issues or mistakes. And of course, we fixed that mistake. So let's move forward to number 14. In 14, we're going to run the program and see what it says down in the debug console. It says the on event ID parameter refers to an ID left button, which does not exist. That means the mistake is on line 4. So let's go ahead and go over to design view and let's check our turn left button. So it is called left button. And then we have this one, which is called forward button. Okay, let's go to code, LEFT-BTN, LEFT-BTN. I could see the mistake right away. So that is not a capital B. So of course, the quickest way to fix that, if you're in this mode, in the blocks mode, is you can just hit the drop down change it to the capital B, and there you have it fixed. If you're working in the other mode, then you would just type in the, okay? So if we run it this time, no mistakes, everything's working properly and ready to move on to bubble 15. Bubble 15, to understand a new piece of code, good programmers often try first to make a prediction about what will happen before running the program. If I look at this, it says it has an on event for button 1 that has it, if I click, it moves forward. And then if I click, it turns left. So since it's like the order reads it top to bottom, then I'm assuming if I click on forward, it's actually going to turn left and not move forward. So let's see what happens. Oh, it's actually going to do both. I was wrong. I didn't think it would actually do both things. I thought it would read the first one and then the second one and like actually do the second one. Interesting. So I was actually wrong. But notice there wasn't an error because it's not necessarily wrong. Like it does actually work, but it doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would you have them separate? Why wouldn't you just have it inside the same block? But anyways, on this one, they just wanted you to make a prediction, observe what happened, and kind of think about what happened. So that's what I did verbally, kind of my thought process, and although yours may be different. So let's move on to bubble 16. Okay, so on this one, we're going to be debugging a logical error. So it says to investigate the code and make a prediction. So this one says on event, when we click button 1, it's going to move forward. And when we click button 2, it's going to turn left. Okay, I don't really see any issues. Let's run the program. And when I click go forth, it's turning left. And when I click turn left, it's moving forward. So it's doing the opposite. That would be why, because I didn't go to design view and check. So if I had checked design view, I would have seen that the go forth was button 2 and the turn left was button 1. So that's where the mistake is. So why don't we do this? We can change it here or in the code. So I'm going to choose to change it here since I'm in here. And I'm going to come over to go forth and change that to button 1. And we should be all set. So button 2 is the turn left. Go forth is the button 1. And let's see, button 1, move forward, button 2, turn left. I think we should be good now. I think I fixed it. So now if I click on go forth, there we go, turn left, and we're all fixed. Okay, so again, just, little programming error, that's how you would debug it. Okay, you look at the code, you look at design mode, and ultimately you should be able to fix the issues that you run into as you're coding your own program. Let's keep moving on to bubble number 17. So at this point, we're going to say goodbye to our turtle programming, and we're actually going to start moving things with the UI element, which is called set position. Okay, and the set position command will let us move our UI elements to an arbitrary position on the screen and set the size at the same time. So you could see the block of code, what it looks like. And as we move forward to the next couple bubbles, we're going to be using that. Now, the thing to remember is at the top left corner, we're at 0, 0, and this is like a coordinate grid. So X is going horizontally and Y is going down. We'll go across to 320 and down to 450. Those are your max values. The screen is 320 by 450. And if you hover over the screen like they're doing, then you can see the coordinates. So if you want to place something in an exact position, then you can hover over the screen. Okay, so let's continue and let's get to these bubble number 18. So in bubble number 18, what we're going to do is we're going to use the set position to move the button to the middle of the screen when clicked. Okay, so we already have our button here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get an on event block, and we're going to, on our move button, when it's clicked, we want it to move to the middle of the screen. So we're going to grab our new block, which is called set position, and we're going to set the position of the button. And then the middle of the screen, let's see, is like 145 It doesn't have to be exact. So let's say 120, 220. So the X is going to be 120. The Y is going to be 220. And that's just where I'm going to put it. And so now I'm going to go over and I'm going to click and see what happens. So I'm going to run it. And when I click it, it moved to the middle of the screen. Look at that. It has a default setting for width and height, and I don't like the way that looks. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change the width to about 120. So maybe the move it will be on the same line. And then I'm going to change the height to 50. I don't like how big it is. And with that change, I think I'm going to move the X coordinate to 100 instead of 120. And we'll see if that looks a little better. Now, this isn't required, but I just don't like how it looks. So now when I run it, it's going to fit properly. It's in the middle of the screen, and I like the width and height. So again, the first one is the X coordinate, the Y coordinate, the width, and the height. Okay, so let's hit finish, and let's check out what we need to do in bubble 19. So in 19, instead of using a fixed value, we're going to use a random number to set the X and Y coordinates for set position. So instead of like the way I did it, an exact spot, we're going to do random, and you'll notice that this is what's going to happen. It's going to be like all over the place. So let's head back over there. And we've used random number before. We were using our portal programming in unit 3. So right here where it has the 100, we're going to go to math, and we're going to grab a random number block. We're going to do the same thing over here in the Y coordinate as well. And you can do what you want. I'm going to go like 0, 320 is as wide as the screen is, and then 0, 450 is as tall as the screen is. So once we've set that position, and then this time when we click, it's not always going to go in the same spot. Now, that is a little problem. Since I did it so far over, it can kind of go off the screen because I went all the way to 450. Now, if that bugs you, kind of bugs me, then you could set this a little smaller, like only let it go to like 350 maybe. And then that way it won't go off to the right side of the screen. Let's try that again. And it still goes off the screen, but it's not quite as far. So anywho, there we go. So this is how we can use random number. And if you think about this, this is maybe something we could use on a game. So when they're clicking and it's actually moving to other places. Great. So we just finished bubble 19. Let's hit finish, hit continue. In bubble number 20, we're going to add a text label that says, try to catch the button. So this is a new design element, a user element, I mean. And it's just going to have text on the screen. So we'll do that now. So we're going to go over to design view, and we're going to grab a text element. We might have to scroll down here. There we go, a text area. And I'm going to go ahead and type in, try to catch the button. Okay, just like the other elements, we can give it an ID. I'm going to leave it as the default, but you can change that to something more meaningful. You can change the width and the height of the text element, where it's positioned, and then the color. I'm not going to mess with the color right now, but I do want to change the size. It's quite small, so I'll go like 20. And now that I've done that, and you can actually resize it just by clicking and dragging as well, or you can resize it with the actual settings over here in the properties menu. So I'm kind of turning it into more of a game now. Okay, so and that's how you do a text label on your app. So go ahead and run that because we're done with bubble 20 requirements. Okay, in bubble 21, they're just showing us how we can add images in design mode. And you can add images that you've saved. You can add images that are on the internet. There's different ways to add images. And so we're going to go ahead and practice that in bubble number 22. So now we're going to add an image to our app and modify the code so that the image jumps around the screen rather than the button. So I'm going to head over to design view, and then I'm going to get rid of our button. To do that, I click on the element, and then over here, I know it's the move button, and I click delete. Okay, and then I'm going to click on my text element. I'm going to drag it up higher, And I'm going to change this to say catch the banana. And granted, you can do whatever you want. It doesn't have to be a banana. I'm just not being very creative right now. um, and then I'm going to add an image. So I'm going to come over here to the design toolbox and I'm going to grab an image and drag it over here. Okay. And then I'm going to change the ID to banana image, just so it's more meaningful. So once you've saved an image of a banana, you're going to click on your image user element and you're going to come down here and where it says image, you're going to click choose. And my image is in my downloads folder, so I'm going to click upload and I'm going to click on my file and click open. And I'm going to choose that guy and there it is on my screen. And then when I go over to code view on event where it says button, I'm going to change it to banana image. So when I click on the banana image, then I want the banana image to randomly move around the screen. So that's the goal of this bubble. So I'm going to go ahead and click run. And now when I click on my banana, it moves randomly around the screen. And of course it moved off the screen, so that can't be good. So let me change the values here. Try this again. Okay, click on the banana. Ooh, still moving way over there. And it is working. Might want to mess with the value so it doesn't go off the screen like that. But we do have the right code. Awesome. So let's move on. That is the end of lesson 1 of unit 5. There is a little survey on the next bubble if you want to take that just to give code.org some feedback. And you are done with unit 5 lesson 1. Thank you for watching.